Part of my plan to secure the border, as has been laid out by many scholars, this current policy is based on a historical myth and a willful misinterpretation of the law by the open borders advocates. There aren't that many of them around. It's amazing. Who wants this? Who wants to have prisoners coming into our country? Who wants to have people who are very sick coming into our country? People from mental institutions coming into our country?
That is Donald Trump once again announcing, renewing it for this presidential run, that he is going to be seeking to end birthright citizenship. The idea that if you are born inside of the United States, you are a citizen of the United States, which has been true for decades and decades and decades and decades and decades. He said, in his last run that he was going to end this, and then, of course, did not. And we'll get into some of the legal troubles that would come were he to try that. But he does have a little bit more to say about the law. Take a look at this.
As part of my plan to secure the border on day one of my new term in office, I will sign an executive order making clear to federal agencies that under the correct interpretation of the law, going forward, the future children of illegal aliens will not receive automatic U.S. citizenship. At least one parent will have to be a citizen or a legal resident in order to qualify.
Okay, so I'm going to file this under the same category of several other things we've had to talk about as a country over the last few years, where the right wing that loves to talk about the original text of the Constitution, the clear text, they really have a problem with reading literacy with comprehension, because it is super clear why there is birthright citizenship and why it would be impossible for any president via an executive order to get rid of it. I don't think that he's read the Constitution. I don't think many of his supporters have. So just in case they haven't, I want to make clear to them that this is not based on an interpretation of the law, or the law at all. It's based on what's in the Constitution, specifically the 14th Amendment to the Constitution, passed by the Senate in 1866, ratified 2 years later. It says, all persons born or naturalized in the United States and subject to the jurisdiction thereof are citizens of the United States. That was then tested in 1898 in U.S. versus Wong Kim Ark. Supreme Court settled an outstanding question, ruling that the child of Chinese citizens born in the U.S. was automatically a U.S. citizen. That's what the text says. That's what was tested 125 years ago. This is not based on some sort of wackadoodle interpretation of the law. It is very clear. That's what is actually true. That is the case. Adrienne, what do you think about this?
I think it's really funny that Trump really tries to leverage the ignorance of his minions, because that's pretty much what he's doing by virtue of the thought that he is trying to use, some kind of xenophobic rhetoric by saying we are not going to allow people to have citizenship that is birthright. And that's going to get more of his people riled up in his favor. It's clear that he and DeSantis are going to be doing tit for tat like this all day long. And the thing is, it's not going to be something that can be enforced in courts of law. But his minions don't care, because just like a lot of DeSantis's efforts, they weren't necessarily going to pass constitutional muster. But hey, putting out the signaling of that, hey, saying these things, not only does it rally up the us v them, but it also creates that sense of fear in others who don't feel comfortable here. It's saying don't be comfortable.
Yeah, 100%. He wants to send that signal in the same way that he did back in 2015. Initially, it was one of the early things he did. Remember, of course, Donald Trump rose to political prominence by questioning the citizenship of Barack Obama. This sort of racist campaigning predates his actual presidential aspirations. Why would he bring it back? At that point, by the way, he had said, we're the only country in the world where a person comes in and has a baby, and the baby is essentially a citizen of the United States with all those benefits. It's ridiculous. It's ridiculous. And it has to end. I guess he is technically true that we're the only country in the world where when you come in and have a baby, it's a citizen of the United States, because it'd be super weird if you had a baby in China and became a citizen of the United States. But to be clear, 30 other countries offer birthright citizenship. Basically in our hemisphere, all of them effectively, almost all of them do that. I don't think that it matters. But again, it's, as Adrienne says, it's playing on the ignorance of his followers. He wants his followers to believe, hey, wait, nobody else does this. Why are we stupid in doing it? When many, literally dozens of other countries do it. It is fairly routine. It has been routine for well over a century in the United States. Plenty of people have benefited, and most conservatives, many of whom benefited from this themselves, or at least their ancestors did, had no problem with it then. It is very much about who it seems like it would hurt now. That's why he is claiming this. He said, by the way, at the time that he was going to do an executive order to end it. He didn't do that for the exact same reason that he's not going to be able to do it now. Maybe he'll try, knowing, as Adrienne said, that it would fail and he'd still get credit amongst his base. All of this is just racist dog whistling. That's all it is. That's why when he was announcing this, like, we're not going to play the full video for you or whatever, but you got a little bit of it in what we played. The endless lies about the type of person that enters the United States without documentation. Him saying they're all sick. They're all from prisons. They're all from mental hospitals. They're tough, mean people. No, they're people. They're literally people that are desperately trying to survive, that are willing to become a part of the United States, to work, contribute to the tax base, try to make a better life. We already know. Do we need to reiterate the stats about lower rates of criminality than native-born citizens? Do we need to go through that again? It's already been demonstrated 1,000 times. Just totally sick of the constant lies about the nature of undocumented immigrants, Adrienne.
Yeah, it is. It gets really old. And yet they continue to go ahead and push that. As far as I'm concerned, it's usually either immigrants or Black people. That's where they like to throw all of their mud and act like there's some accuracy, and they claim these things are purported fact, when no, it's just xenophobia and racism, kind of what the United States was founded on.
Yeah, 100%. Also, LGBTQ people, as we launch into Pride Month, also, they're really getting a lot of mileage out of attacking them.
Check out the Damage Report podcast each day, wherever you get your podcasts, whether Pocket Casts or Stitcher or iTunes. You can join me as I give you the news and stories you want, with a range of co-hosts and interview guests jumping in on the fun each day. Again, that's the Damage Report, wherever you get your podcasts. And if you get them at iTunes, don't forget to rate and review. Sometimes I'll read them live on the show.